Come with me to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter number 11. I'm continuing this sermon series on the power of being with Jesus. And I want to share with you from Matthew 11 today, verses 28 through 30. This is so familiar, you already know it. I just want you to let me share a few thoughts with you from it. I'm preaching it from the New American Standard Version of the text. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You can be seated. Come unto me, all you who are labored and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For I am meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I'm continuing the series again, the power of being with Jesus. I want to label this sermon, Come and Learn. Come and learn. And I'll be honest with you that for a while, in the study, this sermon was entitled Yoked. Yoked. You'll understand when I get there. This passage, Matthew 11, verse 28 through 30, is unique because it's only found in the Gospel of Matthew. Not only is it only found in the Gospel of Matthew, when many read these words, they hear a call to salvation. But if you really study the text out, if you was to really study this critically, you'll come to say that it's not a call to salvation as much as it is a call to discipleship. A call to discipleship. Now, when we were together on the first Sunday, we discussed what Mark's call to discipleship is. It's over there in Mark chapter 3, verse 14 and 15. It says that when Jesus appointed the 12 to be apostles, he appointed them, number one, so that they would be with him. So that they would be with him, and so that he could send them out to preach, and he gave them authority to cast out demons. So Mark says that to be a disciple of Jesus means two things. Number one, to be with Jesus, and number two, to do for Jesus. Amen. It means first being with Jesus and then doing for Jesus. Can I nitpick in the text for a minute? Pay attention to that one more time. Show the verse from Mark chapter number 3 one more time. And he appointed the 12 so that they would be with him, and so that he could send them out. Would indicates certainty. Could indicates possibility. It is a certainty that you got to spend some time with it. It's a possibility that he may send you out, but even if he doesn't send you out, you still need to be with it. I'm going to preach to the virtual sanctuary because they won't say amen in the local sanctuary. I say it's a certainty that you need to spend some time with him, even if he doesn't send you out, even if you don't get to sing your song, even if you don't read the scripture, say the prayer, cook the cake, fry the chicken, get your name called, you still need to spend some time. And I wonder with this church we got today, I really wonder if you stay with him if he didn't use you. I wonder if you stay with him, if you still come, if you still be committed to him, if you weren't guaranteed a platform, a stage, an opportunity. He says that the certainty is on your being with me. The possibility is on my sending you to work. Mark says that being a disciple, the call to discipleship in Mark is all about being with Jesus and doing for Jesus. But then when you get to the Gospel of Matthew, you start hearing Jesus call the disciples, and he calls them with this phrase, follow me. He finds Andrew and Peter in their boats, and he says to them, follow me, and I will make you a fisher of men. You find him going to Matthew's tax collector's booth, and he says to Matthew, follow me. He has all of the disciples there, and he says that if any man will follow me, he must first deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. It's a call to follow. The call to discipleship in Matthew is a call to follow. Now the Greek word okulotheo, if we were in Bible study, I'd spell it for you, shows up 4 out of the 5 times that Jesus says follow me in the Gospel of Matthew, and it literally means that you got to get in line behind somebody. To move behind someone, but here's the thing, you got to be facing in the same direction. It doesn't pay to be in line if you're facing opposite directions. He says, move in line behind me, facing the same direction, and you accompany me while I'm taking lead. You go with me. You go with me. You get behind me. You go with me. And here's the next thing. He says, and your behavior has to be in accordance with mine, or it has to be in agreement with mine. So in essence, Jesus says, if you're going to be a disciple, he says, get behind me, go where I go, and do what I do. That's all discipleship is. Getting behind Jesus and going wherever he goes and doing whatever he does. If you want to know how to live this life for Jesus, he says, get behind me and go where I go and do what I do. My question is, would you go where Jesus goes? Because Jesus went to Samaria and sat at the well to talk to a woman that didn't nobody else want to talk to. Would you go where Jesus goes? Because Jesus goes to house parties with publicans and sinners. Would you go where Jesus goes? Would you do what Jesus does? Love those that hate you. Oh, I can't get no help today. I don't understand. I said, would you love those that don't love you? Would you still do good to those who turn their backs on you and say Hosanna on Sunday and then say crucify him on Friday? Discipleship says that I get behind him and I go wherever he goes and I do whatever he does. I'm a nitpick again. It's the syntax of the text. Syntax of this word, every time you find it, it has the same syntax. Same syntax. It's a second person verb, which means he's talking to you. It's an imperative, which means he's telling you what to do. It's active, which means you got to do it. If it was passive, somebody else would do it, but since it's active, you got to do it. And it's present tense, which means that if you have not started, you need to start. And if you've already started, you don't need to stop. When do we stop? I don't know when we stop. We just keep on until he says stop. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to tell you that can't nobody follow Jesus for you but you. You don't get no vacations from following Jesus. I can't get no help. I said you don't get vacations from following Jesus. It's not a suggestion, it's a command. And he's talking to you. He ain't talking to your sister. He ain't talking to your cousin. He's talking to you. And he says, if you're going to be my disciple, you got to follow me. I'm trying my best. They just don't like it. Matthew, I'm at the text now. I'm at the text. Matthew 11, 28 through 30, designed to do two things. Number one, Jesus wants to extend his call to discipleship a second time, but he wants to do it for everyone. See, before it was just to the 12, and then it was just to the 70, but now it's to everybody. That's number one. And two, he wants to expand the language. He wants to expand the language on what it means to be a disciple, because you got to understand what it means to follow me. Now, if we were to follow the text a little further, you get to Matthew 16:24. He's going to use the language of sacrifice to describe discipleship. But in this text, he uses the framework of study to describe discipleship. And he's going to give us two admonitions. It's the two words of the title. He says, come to me, learn from me. Come to me, learn from me. This is the whole text. Come to me, learn from me. Here's the summary of the sentence. Here's the summary of the sentence. Jesus does not expect us to live this life on our own. He wants to do it with us. Come at it again. If you get this one line, you get the whole sermon. Jesus does not want you to live this Christian life on your own, in your own strength, in your own power. He wants to do this thing with you. Let me show you how. Come unto me, all who are weary, heavy laden, I'll give you rest. What makes the come to me so interesting is not the word come. What makes this so interesting is who he tells to come. Come to me, everybody, but we're going to put some qualifiers on this all. We're not just going to say all, but we're going to put some qualifiers on all, and we're going to say all who are weary and all who are heavy laden. Weary, Greek word kopio, means to exert oneself physically, means to exert oneself mentally, means to exert oneself spiritually, inferred emotionally, until you get fatigued, until you get discouraged. The idea here is that you have done so much till you're exhausted because you're stressed out. You've been straining trying to do this that you worked yourself into the ground. I'm going to come back to it. Weary, you're fatigued and tired and discouraged because you've overworked. Then heavy laden, phorizo, means to carry a burden. It's the word when you put a cargo onto a ship. cargo onto a camel or a donkey to carry, or even when you put a load on your own back, it means to carry. But here's the problem with this word heavy laden. You can't be heavy laden on your own. Somebody else has to put the burden on you. He says, I'm extending an invitation to come to me, but the qualifier for you to come is that you have to have been working hard to do something, and it's worn you out. You're weary, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're exhausted, you're discouraged because somebody has put something on you that you can't carry on your own. I'm trying my best. Here. We got to find out who put this burden on you. What burden is he talking about, Pastor? Jesus is going to explain it in Matthew 23, verse 1 through 4. He says, to the crowds, the scribes and the Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moses. Therefore, all that they tell you, do and observe, but they don't do it themselves. For they say things and they don't do them. And they tie heavy burdens and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as their finger. Here's what Jesus is saying. The weary and heavy laden in this text are the people who've been trying to have a relationship with God, but the people at the church have been telling them, do this and do that, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and it's wearing the people out, and they can't get a relationship with God because they're discouraged from all these rules, all these regulations, all these rituals, all these ceremonial washings and drinkings. All right. I'm gonna come a little closer. Go with me over into the next chapter, chapter 12, and you're going to see Jesus and his disciples are walking through the fields on the Sabbath day, and they let their hand go through the wheat and grab up some kernels of the wheat, and they start eating it. Now, I'm trying to figure out, how did the Pharisees and scribes watch Jesus and the disciples walk through a field and eat? You mad with people because they're eating on the Sabbath? Keep going in the same text, Matthew chapter 12, and Jesus gets to church, and there's a man with a withered hand, and Jesus says to the man, stretch out your hand, and the Lord heals the man. And the Pharisees and the scribes are angry because a man got healed on the Sabbath. Here's my problem. You're mad because the Lord is blessing somebody at the wrong. When is the wrong time to get blessed? When is the wrong time to get your healing? When is the wrong time to be snatched out of what you're going through? Jesus is looking at the disciples and he said, you're weary and you're heavy laden because these people have put expectations on you. And here's the bigger problem that they don't even live up to. I'm so tired of hypocrites in church. I can't stay there, but I got to say it just so I can say it. I'm so tired of hypocrites in church. You want to stand that girl up because she got pregnant and forget that you ain't married and got 6 children of your own. I mean, come on, let's talk about it. You mad with that boy because he's sagging his pants, but you got lick on your breath? Come on, you mad with somebody because they stood up at the wrong time in the service and you forgot that you was on the phone on the way to church talking about somebody? I'm trying my best. He says that they keep putting these loads on you that they won't even carry themselves. He says, but if you come to me, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you rest. You cannot get to God through rules. You get to God through relationship. So come to me, have relationship with me, and I'll help you get to God. I'll give you rest. Rest. And a power. Rest and a power is more concerned with the process than it is the final result. And a power says, number one, that you got to settle on the fact that what you've been doing ain't been working. What I've been doing hasn't been working. And once I discover that what I've been doing hasn't been working, the next thing I got to do is stop doing what ain't been working. Ooh, I want to pull over right there so bad. When you discover that it's not moving you forward, why keep doing what ain't moving you forward? This is in the definition of the word. You got to realize that what you're doing, what's happening, isn't working. And then two, you got to stop doing what isn't working. And then number three, you got to actually stop to rest so that you can experience relief. You can't have relief until you stop. Preach, Pastor, I got 10 minutes to do it. I said, you cannot experience relief until you stop, until you rest. Let's put it into the context. You got to stop trying to keep all them rules before the relationship can actually realize it. You got to get out of the rat race of church to really be a Christian. Whew, I'm trying my best. Y'all just won't help me. I say, you got to stop. You got to stop. You got to stop so you can find relief. Relief may not mean God fixing it. Relief may mean you realizing that there's another way to get where I'm trying to go. The problem is, if there was another way and I knew another way, I'd try another way. But I only know what I've been doing, so I keep doing what I know to do because I don't know nothing else to do. So Jesus doesn't stop at come to me. He follows come to me with take my yoke upon you. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. The operative word in verse 29 is learn. It's the word learn, and this word learn, mathano, it's an aorist, it's the snapshot of what this is. It literally means that you have to learn by example. Jesus says, if you're going to do something different, you got to find somebody that's doing what you want to do. Watch them, and then do it with them. And then let them give you some pointers on what you need to fix and how you're doing it. Then do it some more and do it some more until it becomes a part of you. And when it becomes a part of you, eventually somebody else will come to you and say, show me how to do what you're doing. Learn by example. How are we going to learn? By example. I'm chunking some of this off. How are we going to learn? By example. Jesus says it in the text. Take my yoke upon you. Go ahead again. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Here it is. A yoke, I'm wrapping it up, is a harness designed to be placed on two different animals to accomplish an action. Okay, you put a yoke on two different animals so that you can plow your fields. That's the current text. And typically, when you yoke someone, you yoke opposites. All right. I know this is new. It's okay. You yoke opposites. You put the older, more experienced ox with the younger, less experienced ox, because the older ox already knows how to do this. And if the younger ox just follows the older ox, the younger ox will learn what the older ox knows. You put the weaker, smaller ox with the larger, stronger ox, because the larger, stronger ox can pull more weight than the weaker, smaller ox. And Jesus says, get in the yoke with me. You got my sermon already, girl. High five. He says, get in the yoke with me, because I already know how to do this. Get in the yoke with me, because I'm stronger than you are. And if you get in the yoke with me and just follow me, I'll teach you how to walk this Christian life without having to go through the struggle, without having to go through the strain of trying to follow all these rules and regulations that people have tried to put on you. Could it be, I got to stop somewhere. Could it be that your struggle with living this life is because you've had the wrong example? You've been trying to follow people down at the church, been trying to follow Reb, been trying to follow Deke, been trying to follow some church mother, and Jesus is saying, you're following the wrong people. Get in the yoke with me. My yoke is easy. It's well suited for you. It literally means that the yoke was custom made just for you. If you get in the yoke with Jesus, he knows how to tailor make your journey just for you, because you're going to need some things that I don't need, and I'm going to need some things that you don't need. So he says, get in the yoke with me and I'll tailor your journey just for you. He says, my yoke is easy. Then he says, my burden is light. He doesn't say that you won't have burdens. You're going to have some burdens. In this world, you shall have tribulation. But be of good cheer, for I've already overcome the world. You're going to have some burdens. But if you get in the yoke with Jesus, he's stronger than you, and he can bear more weight than you, so that he won't never put more on you than you're able to handle. For those of you who don't agree with that passage of scripture, it's in the Bible. There is no temptation taking you such as is coming unto man, but he is faithful that he will always provide a way of escape, not for you to get out of it, but so that you'll be able to bear it. God will always make it where you can bear. He may not take you out of it, but he'll give you the strength to go through it. And here's the good news. And the reason why it's light enough for you to handle is because he's up underneath that burden with you, and he's bearing the burden. He's a heavy load sharer and a burden bearer. I got 2 minutes to wrap this up. I'll preach hard in April for Easter. I'll preach off Easter. I'm interested in this last phrase. There's one last phrase I need to deal with in the text. In verse 28, he said, I will give you rest. But in verse 29, he said, you will find rest. I'm interested in why verse 28 is, I will give you rest. And verse 29 is, you will find rest. Word rest is same word in 28 and 29. So then we got to look at you will find in order to understand the difference. This word you will find is eurisko in the Greek, and it literally means that you begin to experience something, or you're brought into an experience. I'm finna say something. He gave it to you in verse 28, but it's possible for you not to experience what he's already given you. Oh, this needs to be a sermon unto itself. God can have already given you a blessing and you not experience the blessing because you're out of position. Now, I need to tell somebody that God has already blessed you with every spiritual blessing in heavenly place. It's already yours. The problem is you're not experiencing what he's given you because you're not. Let me bring it to the text. You're not experiencing the blessing that he's already provided in verse 28 because you never got in the yoke with Jesus, so you'll never find the rest that he gave you in verse 28 because you never got in the yoke. Could it be, you can play softly, I'm done. Could it be that you're missing blessings because you're still out of the yoke? You're still weary. You're still heavy laden because you never got in the yoke. And he said, I'll give you rest, but you got to get in the yoke. That's why I wanted to call it yoke. Because the rest that he promises in verse 28, the rest that he promises in verse 29 is only guaranteed to the one that gets in the yoke. You stop struggling with the rules of religion when you get in the yoke. You learn how to rest when you get in the yoke. You experience the relief of not bearing an ill-suited journey because you got in the yoke. You learn the relief of not having to wear somebody else's rules because you got in the yoke. Missing the rest that's promised because you have not gotten and take my yoke upon you. Learn of me, for I am weak, meek, lowly in heart. That's when you'll experience the rest for your soul.